The school have been involved with the church ever since I've been here. The church is very much part of the school's life, and we were really excited to be invited to join this project.
My partner and I were involved in winding the clock for a couple of years or so before it was mechanised, and it would be wound twice a week because it would take 48 hours for the weights to drop.
Compared to the original cost of the clock, the mechanisation, the electrification of it was quite expensive. So the parish council didn't have quite enough money to do it. So we applied to the Heritage Lottery Fund for money to help do the works.
Barningham is a village and civil parish in the St Edmundsbury district of Suffolk, England, about 12 miles north-east of Bury St Edmunds. According to Eilert Ekwalla, Professor of English at Lund University, Sweden, the village name derives from Saxon times and means the homestead of Bjorn's people. In earlier times, Barningham formed part of the hundred of Blackbourn. The Domesday Book records the population of Barningham in 1086 to be 36. Contrast this to the last census of 2011, some 925 years later, which reported that the population now stood at 956. Barningham currently has a primary school, a public house called the Royal George, a shop with a post office, a church, a hairdresser's, a village hall, a flower shop, play area, playing field, and a local wildlife area. For almost 600 years, the church, dedicated to St Andrew, has been used as a place of worship by the village. It is located in the centre of the village and has a surrounding churchyard. Although a church was noted in the Domesday Book, no part of the church structure from that time now remains. Documents show that the tower was built in 1439 to 1440, from legacies made to the church, and along with the chancel are the oldest parts of the church. The nave is likely to have been added shortly afterwards to link the chancel with the tower. The church and tower were built mainly using a combination of rubble flint with freestone dressings. The tower walls also have a mixture of knapped flint and red brick within their structure. The exterior of St Andrew's has remained virtually unchanged over the nearly 600 years of its existence. The most notable changes to the building during that time being the removal during the Reformation of medieval crosses from the gable ends of the roof, and the installation in 1887 of a clock to the church tower. At a public meeting early in 1887, it was agreed that the village would mark the occasion of the Golden Jubilee of Queen Victoria in June of that year by purchasing by public subscription a clock to be installed in the church tower. The people of the parish rallied to the cause, and by the end of the year the sum of £136, 10 shillings and sixpence had been raised. A clock was ordered from Sir John Bennett of the City of London, who was the owner of a famous firm of watchmakers and jewellers. Although he oversaw the installation of the clock, it is likely that he actually commissioned the supply of the clock from another manufacturer. The cost of the actual clock itself was £120, and the remaining £16 10 shillings and sixpence from the fund covered the costs of the masons' and carpenters' work to the tower.
What we do need to do.
For the majority of people, the church clock is merely the faces showing to the world at large on the sides of the tower. The hands, sweeping almost imperceptibly around the clock face, tick off the minutes and hours of each and every day. Hidden and held securely behind the large ornate facade of the clock face is the mechanism that has been designed and built to be both strong enough and durable enough to withstand the passing of time, as strong and as durable as the flint and the brickwork from which the church tower itself is built.
Yeah. Probably lots of things. That one?
Yeah.
No, them are up here.
I thought one was up there.
Yeah.
Even up there. It's a roller.
Huh?
The weight one, right?
The present church was built in the 14th and 15th centuries on the site of an original church which is mentioned in the Domesday Book, but there have been a number of renovations since, including the installation of the original clock.
That's nice. This one has to go first.
That's one. What goes in there? Like that.
This one goes in.
And that one goes on top. Like that. Like that. Right.
I'll put that in the pot.
Huh?
I'll put it in there.
No, don't worry about that yet. I'll just get the front bar on. Isn't it?
What's wide maybe, isn't it? How thin are they?
Right. That should be, just slip the front on. Look at that. Now this is where it could involve some swearing.
My partner and I were involved in winding the clock for a couple of years or so before it was mechanised, and it would be wound twice a week because it would take 48 hours for the weights to drop. So somebody else also used to wind it twice a week, and we would come and come into the church and go up the very windy staircase to the top of the tower to wind the church, and then I'd have to wait for one of the quarter-hour chimes to go before disabling the mechanism and then winding really hard, because it would take me about 12 minutes to wind it before the next quarter-hour chimes would go off. And there was 3 weights that had to be wound right up to the roof. One of them was quite small and it wasn't too difficult, but the heaviest one was very hard work, and you'd be really hot and sweaty and tired by the time you got it up to the top of the roof. And then it would gradually drop down over the 48 hours. And I particularly remember a couple of occasions when we'd been out and we had to come late at night to wind it, or the church clock would have stopped. And one was Halloween, when it was very dark and creepy going up the stairs with a torch. And another was, I think, on Christmas Eve around midnight, when we nearly forgot to wind it, and we had to sneak in after midnight mass and get it wound so it wouldn't stop.
This is better. That's it. This is better. That's it. Plug in there.
The clock mechanism is driven by a number of large weights. The driving weight is used to turn the clock wheels, and the wheelwork is released for a moment each time the pendulum swings by a device known as an escapement, so called because it allows the wheelwork to escape at regular fixed intervals.
The church clock was originally installed in the end of 1887. This came about by public subscription to commemorate Queen Victoria's Golden Jubilee. The clock itself then cost £120, and there were some small additional costs for masonry and carpentry works, which added another £16 onto the cost. So by the end of 1887, £136 had been raised by public subscription. At that time, the clock was wound mechanically, but it's quite a job. So when the parish council, were discussing how to commemorate Queen Elizabeth's Diamond Jubilee, we thought it was a good idea to mechanise the winding part of it by electrifying it. And it made an appropriate combination with the fact that the original clock was in memory of another Golden Jubilee, in this case, not Diamond one. That's why we went ahead and did it all for this period in time.
Brush the frame a bit first. There. Oh, that's brilliant.
The clock is of flatbed construction, as all the wheels or trains of wheels are attached to a solid cast iron base. The striking train is on the left, the going train in the centre, and the chiming train on the right.
That come forward. Yeah, I think it's a tooth over or something.
Compared to the original cost of the clock, the mechanisation, the electrification of it was quite expensive. So the parish council didn't have quite enough money to do it. So we applied to the Heritage Lottery Fund for money to help do the works. They were very good and they gave us a grant, but part of their conditions were to make it more accessible to everybody, to involve the school and to generally publicise the fact that the clock was there, it was old and it was now modernised, and we had this help from the Heritage Lottery Fund, and that has been really essential to the completion of the project.
Oh, hundreds of bits. The back bar on this side. Yeah. Ah, do I? Give it a pair of pins. Yes.
The clock had to be wound by hand every other day, which required someone to climb the very narrow tower stairs and to crank the winding mechanism by hand. To commemorate Queen Elizabeth II's Diamond Jubilee in 2012, the parish council decided to electrify the winding mechanism. The cost of this project was nearly 60 times the amount that the original clock had cost 125 years previously. However, the parish council was able to get a grant from the Heritage Lottery Fund to help cover both the cost of electrifying the clock's winding mechanism and to contribute to studies of the pupils at the Barningham Church of England Voluntary Controlled Primary School as they undertook a major project on the theme of time. Part of the children's studies into time were linked to the church clock restoration, and a tangible reminder of the project was provided by the parish council as they created a quiet seated area with a sundial at the centre in the school grounds.
Oh, I need a file. I got dinged a bit, I don't know if it'll fit in there.
The school have been involved with the church ever since I've been here. The church is very much part of the school's life, and we were really excited to be invited to join this project. The children looked at time throughout the late ages. We made sundials, we looked at astronomy and how astronomers have used time, we looked at day and night, minutes, we had games and activities, how many things can you do in a moment. The children, as part of this project, were given money to create a quiet space, and the focal point for the quiet space was a sundial, which the children were really excited about and used. And it's a very different way of using time. Each class put together a project, and they made a project book based on time. We haven't had an opportunity yet to go up the tower because it's not safe, but the children are all very, very aware of the new clock, and we hope that it works well.
Okay. Yeah. Next one to sleep. Might be too big, I think.
The escapement on the going train is known as the deadbeat and is one of the more common types of clock escapement, of which there are more than 100 different types used in turret clocks.
Might lift it more or not? No, it's hanging there. And which one's which? Hang on, you can't put that on yet. Put that in there. And that over there. That goes down there. Well, it might do. Let's get to the other one. Probably the end of the wire. Yeah, that's it, that's it.
in that upper bar. Seems loose in the touch.
It's what? Not very loose.
Pictures of the medieval church are these steps here, which would originally have led to what was the rood loft, and that used to live or be fixed above the rood screen here, and would in olden times actually had a crucifix on top of it. Now all we've got left is the screen, and on the base of the screen you can very faintly see there are traces of paint, particularly on the edges there, red paint. For they would always have been painted and probably scenes on the panels. What happened to most roof screens is they were destroyed when the Cromwellians were in power, and they tended to take down the fancy things that were inside churches.
That's that one. That's locked now, isn't it? Not right in there, is it?
No, it's not a T, it's a 1.
Yeah, probably.
Make more sense. Just put the numbers on there.
Did you put 4 years old? I reckon that they. Damn it.
What was
A
that?
screwdriver.
Yeah, that's gone forever.
On each end of the mechanism there are 2 brass wheels outside the main body of the clock, which have a series of notches cut into the circumference and are spaced out unevenly. The spaces between the notches determine the number of times that the bell or bells are sounded for the quarter hours or the hours.
Need that.
Yeah. I need that. We need that lifting lever, don't we? Yeah.
I don't know how to get rid of that.
Which one's loose? Your side.
Yeah.
Probably just want to stand it on there for the minute.
The church was relatively fortunate in the Reformation in that we have still a number of original medieval carved bench ends. Some of them were damaged. This one here, you can see, has been chopped off at the front and lost its head, and a number have lost heads. But one behind it is still looking relatively as it probably was when it was first carved.
That's about.
Right.
You can pull it all forward, can't you?
That right in there.
Yeah.
It's probably about right there.
The Church Clock by Edwin Waugh. O thou who dost these pointers see, and hear'st the chiming hour, say, do I tell the time to thee, and tell thee nothing more? I bid thee mark life's little day by strokes of duty done. A clock may stop at any time, but time will travel on. I am a preacher to a few, a servant unto all, as here I stand tick-ticking, like a death watch in the wall. And it were well that those who see these fingers gliding on should think a moment now and then how fast the moments run. There's some of you are wealthy, and some of you are proud, and some are poor, and some are sad, and waiting for a shroud. Be patient yet a while, for see, this little yard below, the man who goes the longest way has not so far to go. A christening, then a wedding comes, and then a passing bell. 'Tis just the ancient tale that time has always had to tell. The very clock that marks the hour with ticking wears away. The gladdest pulse of life contains the music of decay.
So that one there. Should take that. Would have taken that, but it didn't.
It's not lifting far enough.
No. So now it would be one. And then
Another adjustment.
yeah, no, I think that's the That's quarter two. Right.
When it's there, it should be hanging down. That should be like that.
No, that's not right.
And then you lift it up over it.
I reckon they'd put that balls of that bush at some. Actually, done something because it was hanging. It used to hang down there, and put that bit on.
It is to be hoped that the clock will now continue to inform the residents of the village, both visually and audibly, of the passing time for at least another 125 years.